I've always been drawn to that soulful sound, and for many years had to introduce it in Germany. I was one of the few people who really were into it and tried to push it. And sometimes it has been a struggle, but if you believe in it and if you really feel a certain sound, you don't give up, and
you go full steam.
You go full steam, and I continued to do so. I was picked up by 2 employees of Christos at the airport, and we went to the car and they started the radio. And a beautiful, just released new soulful house song was playing. Yeah. And I was like, wow, you have good taste in music.
Yeah.
And they told me, no, that's national radio you're listening to.
Yeah.
And I was blown away because we don't hear that music on our national radio in Europe, or hardly.
That musical note is directly leading us to another exciting episode of Gauteng Lifve, your premier platform where we share, propagate, converse, and interrogate everything about the visitor economy in the Golden Province of Gauteng. My name is Barba Gaoganediwe, your champion host. Like we always do in this show, we bring you tastemakers, change agents that are driving the economy of South Africa, of Africa, and our Golden Province forward. These are people that are bringing in the interface between tourism, culture, music, lifestyle, and related subsectors. They are change agents in their own right. And in this episode, we are doing nothing less. I'm excited to engage with my dear brother, dear friend, Ralf Gum. Thank you very much for accepting our invitation, and welcome to Gauteng Lifve.
Oh, thank you very much for having me, Baba. It's a great pleasure, and I'm looking forward to our conversation.
Absolutely. How have you been? It's been a while not conversing, not interacting, but I've seen you've been gigging, and kind of like also family keeping you busy.
Yeah, life keeps me busy. I'm blessed to have a lot of gigs still in this country, which I call home now.
Yeah.
I've been traveling as well for international gigs. I've been working in studio a lot with local and international talent. And like you say, family keeps me busy in addition. Both my kids were born here.
Yeah.
The older one's starting high school now. So
wow.
a lot of changes going on.
Wow.
But
yeah,
I appreciate life as it is, and I don't mind being busy.
Yeah, I guess it comes with the wealth of experience and the territory that you have been. If you were to just summarize, and the reason I'm not doing that is because I want you to do that, because I can't summarize in few seconds or minute who is Ralf Gum and the role that you literally have played. I know that among others, Gogo Music has been literally your baby. And it continue even now at this age, continue to be that pioneering label that everyone is looking forward, to see what is in store from them.
Yes, so I try to cut it short. I'm a German-born music producer, disc jockey, and music label owner of Gogo Music. I was born in the north of Bavaria and grew up in a small village there. Started my career in the music industry around 1990. And after releasing on a lot of other labels, in 2001, I started my own music label, Gogo Music, which since then has served as a platform for my music, but as well for the music of a lot of other artists which do a similar sound, which is soulful and deep house music. And my career took me for the first time 2008 to this beautiful country of South Africa. It was our legendary DJ Christos who booked me for the first time for a few gigs, and from there onwards I kept on coming more, participated in the Southern African Music Conference, which was held by DJU around that time. DJU consists of 5 local legends who initiated a music conference. I was teaching there and kept on playing more gigs and kept on coming back to this country. And at some point, the energy here just,
continued to be something else.
Continued to be something else. And I fell in love with this country. And every time I had to leave, it felt like I have to leave something back. So in 2012, I decided together with my wife, she had a sabbatical at work at that time, to try and see how it is if we stay for a longer period here. I was offered work at Katsaitis Music to help building an international competitive music label together with Christos and his team. And it very quickly became home. And I feel very blessed and privileged that I have been allowed to stay here since 2012. And like I said, it's home now.
It definitely is home. Maybe before we go deeper into that, let's trace it a little bit back. The time you were starting your career, you had been playing long, but the period of the 1990s, very historic, especially you being German-born, just on the backdrop of, the fall of the Berlin Wall, and also in South Africa, actually in this month, in 1990, President Mandela was released from prison.
Mm-hmm.
So historic milestones, globally, and that period was equally overlaid by soundtracks, sounds of change, because they didn't just happen overnight. We could see where the world was going. Playing and growing up around that time, how was it like? And how has that equally shaped and helped you to be able, come 2008 or 2012, you were able to transition to South Africa?
I believe both countries had a lot of similar challenges at that time, transitioning from a very divided society towards a democratic and society where everyone had similar chances, and seeing that change happening in Germany around that time, it set free a special energy of the feeling of freedom for a lot of people. And it, of course, as well influenced the creative sector and arts in general, because feelings are usually what drives creativity. Absolutely. And arts. At that time, when apartheid fell in South Africa in 1994, to be honest, I didn't know much about this country yet. I still was very young and upcoming in Germany, but I felt that energy in Germany, and I'm sure it was even a more radical change in this country, because the change of system has been much bigger and had a much bigger influence on society. What it's amazing to see that both countries managed to transition to a new form peacefully.
Yeah.
Both countries, drafted new constitutions based on human rights and dignity and other important stuff. And I guess there are a lot of lessons to learn from the other side. There's still a lot of things which
Hanging
need
there.
to be addressed. Economic inequalities, they don't disappear too fast. It's something you steadily have to work on.
Yeah.
But just seeing those two countries transitioning to their new democratic form they are in now, and as well realigning with the world, and that everything worked without or in a peaceful way, is amazing to see.
Absolutely. And during those days, as you were playing in Bavaria, moving to Berlin, what were the dominant sounds at that time? And especially in the genre and the space that you are in, deep soulful house music, which, like I said, came in also as part of underground music, which kind of supported the winds and waves of change that were engulfing the world, especially in divided societal orders that at that period we find ourselves in. So, do you recall, some of your first songs that you were introducing yourselves, and the sounds in general?
In general, in Germany, there has always been a harder techno sound, being predominantly in the clubs, and as well the little parts of that club culture which made it to media like radio. It usually has been more techno than house. I've always been drawn to that soulful sound, and for many years had to introduce it in Germany. I was one of the few people who really were into it and tried to push it. And sometimes it has been a struggle, but if you believe in it and if you really feel a certain sound, you don't give up, and
you go full steam.
You go full steam, and I continued to do so. And now looking back, it was worth every struggle. It maybe took longer than for other people who have been in countries where that sound was popular. But over time, the music started traveling, and so did I, to different parts of the world, and was able to play in different parts of the world the music I like. And when I came here for the first time, I heard a lot about how house music has been the sound of change, especially in townships for black people, and they associate house music with that change, which I haven't been aware of, but it was amazing to see how much house music is part of daily life in this country, and kept on being since then.
And so we used to call it international. And in those cassettes, and vinyls. But I guess it was also international in the context that not that we are regarding ourselves as local, but this was international in a sense that it united everybody. And this was, the sounds of a world order that appreciates its diversity, but being united by music. And therefore, what has been out of your own experience, the global influence of music, and especially the sounds at the time and the sounds of house music right now, in forging this unity Now you are coming out of a united Germany, no longer East and West Germany, and now you are moving into Europe with your gigs and going all over the world with your gigs. Would you say music had played a role in trying to bridge the divide that characterized the world at then? I mean, it still continues now, but would you say music and its entire ecosystem, of the sounds of the people and the culture played a role, in creating some sense of unity amongst its community?
I definitely believe so. I think the good thing about music and arts in general is it doesn't know borders.
Yeah.
And it as well doesn't know race.
Yeah.
So it's something which can unite people, and in a lot of cases did and continues to do. And maybe not so much back then, because we haven't been in a digital age yet,
Yes, yeah.
but now sounds travel very fast, and which sounds which might start local influence global
Yeah.
thinking and global arts in general, and very fast. So there's a steady exchange, and I think it brings people closer together.
Yeah.
And that's the strength of music, and it's as well what made my entry in this country much
Yeah.
easier, because it was the music connecting me with people. And there haven't been much cultural borders for
Yeah.
me, because music was bridging all those differences very easily.
Yeah. So now you are landing for the first time in South Africa. Our dear brother Christos, dear friend, welcomes you. You go out. How was it like? I mean, you've probably moved to other European countries playing. Now it's first time probably in Africa.
Yes, it was.
And South Africa then, with its transition to a democratic, system, drew headlines, across the world.
Yes.
Nelson Mandela, larger than life individuals, sports fraternity, the Springboks, 1995 wins the Rugby World Cup. Bafana Bafana comes in 1996, wins AFCON. Is the Rainbow Nation period. The country is galvanized. There's this general mood. We are also on the wave of a blasting Kwaito revolution that it has its own history, also influenced by international music at then. And here's Ralf coming in and just pressing that play. How was it like? And do you recall which song you started your set with?
I don't know the song I started with, but I want to share another experience. So I actually want to share 3 experiences when I arrived here. The first experience was that people here are amazingly friendly and have an open heart and are very welcoming as well to foreigners, which, if you consider the history, is nothing you can automatically expect, but which is something absolutely amazing. The second thing I want to share is you don't feel like you come to a developing country if you land in Gauteng at OR Tambo and go to Joburg. You feel like, or there's a lot of wrong perception about Africa in general and South Africa specifically still in the minds of European people. So that's what I picked up very fast. And the third experience was I was picked up by 2 employees of Christos at the airport, and we went to the car and they started the radio. And a beautiful, just released new Soulful house song was playing.
Yeah.
And I was like, wow, you have good taste in music.
Yeah.
And they told me, no, that's national radio you're listening to.
Yeah.
And I was blown away because we don't hear that music on our national radio in Europe, or hardly. And I immediately knew I am in a territory where I can be myself musically, because, I mean, it even plays on national radio, the same sound I want to present. I don't know which song I started my gig with. I only know that I had the pleasure to play after Christos and before Black Coffee, who I met the first time on that day. And we all became friends. We had an amazing night. It was a gig in Rosebank. The venue was called Capital, which doesn't exist now anymore.
I remember that space.
But so those were my first impressions, and they are everlasting.
The Joburg unique culture, which you got to now get deeping into, and with this unique setup where you actually have the Gauteng region with 2 sprawling metropolis of Johannesburg and Pretoria, Tshwane, literally inseparable. Actually, if you don't know, you will not know when are you in Joburg, when are you in Pretoria. But with quite unique taste of music and musical culture. And coming from Berlin, how will you want to compare the 2 or 3 spaces musical culture? Because I guess part of the reason you ultimately decided to settle in Centurion was to not compromise any of the cities. So you wanted to find yourself in the middle. So that you retain the relationship.
It actually wasn't the real decision. It was more that most of the friends I had at the time I was moving here, and I wouldn't have moved here only because of music. It as well as the connections to people who gave me that feeling of security, which I needed to make that decision. Most of them stayed in that area or in Midrand, and so we looked around that area, but quickly understood that it's actually the perfect location, because at the time I moved here, Pretoria was called the capital of house. Most things were happening in Pretoria. Most innovation, I feel, happened at that time in Pretoria, so it was good to be close to Pretoria. But as well, of course, it's good to be close to the biggest city. And during the last years, I feel the dynamics changed a bit. Joburg really became that creative and musical hub it deserves to be as the biggest city in the country. And therefore, Centurion is still the perfect location to be staying at.
Some personal reflection, I guess, you had to do, in that deciding moments, after being beaten by, the culture, the people. I always say in here we have 16.5 million people in Gauteng province. Of the 64 million people in South Africa, 16.5 million people are here. So we might no longer have gold underneath, as this is Gauteng, the place of gold. But surely the gold is placed in the 16.5 million people here. So was not surprised when the people captured you with their warmth and with their heart. It's engraved in our Ubuntu, and that's why there's not even an English translation or version of Ubuntu. But the personal decision-making process that you had to go through, obviously looking at a very colorful career in Europe, familiar musical scene, familiar studio and technical setup, familiar distribution network. You just get into the train and you are in another country in 30 minutes, Some reflection on that time when you were making, the decision obviously involving the family and the like. But what do you say were those standouts that ultimately made the deal happen?
I mean, there were a lot of factors, but the main thing really was I felt and feel an energy in this country which I never felt anywhere else. It might be very personal, and obviously what you mentioned, that people welcomed me with open arms thanks to the music they knew of me. But as well just because it's in them. Making friendships here, having personal relationships and so forth, all those helped. The beautiful weather and nature, attracts one. But it really is an energy which I can't describe in words, which drew me to this country and eventually kept me here. And it's a combination of all those things, obviously. The decision, nevertheless, wasn't easy, to leave your home country and the environment you're used to, and which enabled you to live a good life, sometimes isn't easy, but sometimes you as well need to take the risk.
Yeah.
And for me as well, it was interesting to be in a surrounding where I felt musical innovation is happening in that genre I'm in. At that time I moved here. South Africa wasn't yet big on exporting the sounds which were produced here. But it all started around that time, and it was already clear to see that something interesting is happening. And out of what happened back then with more and more house DJs starting as well an international career and starting to take the sounds to the world, and internationals coming here as well taking the South African sound to the world. It was very interesting in a artistical sense to be here and to be part of it and to be able to influence that. Absolutely. And as well help a bit with that growth and making the sounds known. And now looking at the past, I'm 14 years here now, but let's say looking back at the past decade, so many musical trends came from South Africa and made it to the world and influenced global sounds and music production in a big way. And just that sort of being able to be part of this was very interesting to me, and was more interesting than staying in Germany and doing the usual, which I did before,
Yeah. Fantastic. So the now looking at, the opportunities that emerged out of that, especially in any transitional period, in a focal period, there are a lot of opportunities as much as there are a lot of challenges that are there. Will you say the system and the entire ecosystem, apart from you being known, or they have had your music was already in place before you even arrived? Mm-hmm. Will you say that put you in a better position to be able to walk with the teams here in leveraging the opportunities that were there? but also using your own experience now that you are able to actually see, as a result of, among others, Europe being so intertwined, you have been able to easily get the experience and the reaction from other countries as it was assimilating to your music that was coming out of Germany.
I think it went both ways. As much as my music might have influenced some people in Germany, I know it influenced many more people here simply because there are more house music lovers here.
Yeah.
And since I know this country, a vast amount of the music producers will naturally venture into house music. So what they do will influence me as much as what I do will influence them, and being at the same spot helps that, It's now in digital age, exchange over long distances became easier. But it's still not the same than being in the same room with someone. And therefore, I feel my experience and my knowledge, I was able to use it in a much better way here than in Germany, where I, most of the time, as much as I had gigs and success, still felt as a musical outsider sometimes. While here, it's a community of house music lovers who just make it happen. And the more people work in the same space, the more it can grow, and the more it grows as well, it will start traveling to other territories again.
Any first days collaborative work that just stood out for you? I know you've done a lot, but at the moment that could have been, your first, beyond just going gigging together. But now, starting being in the kitchen, with the local talents, and you are chopping the carrots, somebody is preparing the spinach there, you are preparing the spoiky course, that now brings in your influence and the local influence, not just for South Africa, but like you said, for this channel that has already been open of world house music.
Yes, I mean, it actually started right away on the first night. Like I said, Black Coffee was playing after me on the first gig, in my first gig in this country. And the day after, we decided that we have to collaborate in some way. And I took a Shana song called Uyangi Komela. Shana was a group at that time consisting of 3 people, Black Coffee, Demor, and Shota. And I remixed it, released it on my label, and it became quite successful. So we followed up with more Black Coffee releases on Go-Go Music. And from there onwards, it was a lot of other people, especially after I moved here in 2012, who I collaborated with, or where I tried to help them with their career. We were earlier speaking about a friend of ours who has come from the same hometown as you, Mafikeng.
So shout out to Lesego.
Yes, shout out. We started working in 2013, and over at least a decade were almost in contact daily. I helped him with his music, and I helped him with other things. And for me, it's just great to see if those people manage to make a career out of their dream and are able to stand on their own feet at some point. And Sir LSG now runs one of the most successful event series in the country, while he still produces a lot. Just now lately remixed Black Coffee and Monique Bingham. a very well-known song of them, and he's just one example of those people I've worked with, and I continue to do so. I think for established artists, it's very important to give back to the younger generation with
Yeah.
the knowledge we made. And, we all made mistakes through our career, but just helping them with guidance, because if the older generation doesn't do that and every new generation has to fight the same battles, it will be stagnant.
Absolutely.
But to grow the scene, it's necessary. Everybody works together, and the older established people give back to the younger generation too.
You deserve your flowers, Ralph. You have done that work absolutely fabulous. Beautiful to watch, heartwarming, and the results are there for everyone to see. Just few years, after you've relocated, I remember I came to you and say, we are every year in Berlin for the biggest travel trade show, ITB, and
Yes.
That's your city. And let's just do something musical that allows us to leverage on your ability to connect with your city. And I remember you brought LSG with.
Yes.
You brought Shimza with.
Yes.
And look where they are. So you really played a pivotal role. You deserve your flowers. And here at Gauteng Live podcast, we appreciate you, and we are never gonna tire to shower you with your flowers. And
I want to say it really humbles me that I was allowed to come to this country and put in the work, because it obviously is not the usual that a European just comes to a country and is allowed to bring in himself, unless maybe a company employs him here.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So I'm really grateful that I was allowed to do that, and you can't imagine how much it gives back to me to hear that I'm appreciated. It means a lot to me.
No, we appreciate you, Ralph. So still on that tip, and I guess what enabled it also was the fact that there was an acknowledgement that you are amongst the rare talents and the skills but that rare talent and skill seamlessly interfaced with what we have and what we're doing in the country, and you could instantly see the results. It's not something that takes years and years to build, but it was also on something as emotive as music.
And it felt naturally.
Came
somehow.
natural, something as emotive as music. And the reason I touched on Berlin and that ITB is because every year the biggest tourism boards, travel trade gathers there. But the city is one of those that has been able to literally appreciate the creative space. If you say top 5 creative cities in the world, you cannot not mention Berlin, whether it's its art scene, whether it's its music scene, whether it's its sports entertainment scene, whether you are a runner, a marathon, you can't compete a second of global marathon without mentioning the Berlin Marathon, Therefore, having the biggest tourism trade show even there, for me, just underscores how integrated this tourism visitor economy is to sports and entertainment space and the creator space broadly. In your view, having now lived in this city, in this country, what are some of the key learnings that just makes Berlin stand out. That not just Johannesburg, not just Gauteng, South Africa, we could leverage if it's working, if it's pioneering. Why not copy it?
I believe not only Berlin, it as well, I think, was historically, when Germany reunited, it became a hub for creatives, and it as well wasn't too expensive for a long time to move there, which made it easier for creative people to go there. But it's not only Berlin. A lot of cities around the world understood that arts and entertainment is a huge economic factor. I think about Miami, who had the Winter Music Conference, and a lot of other initiatives. I think about Amsterdam in the Netherlands, who do the Amsterdam Dance event, but as well a lot of other initiatives which became a huge economic factor and a driving force for tourists to go there for certain occasions or in general. So I think it's definitely worthwhile looking at those concepts, and especially here where musical trends were made now for many, many years, and the world is looking on South Africa and what happens here in the country musically. It should be a no-brainer to build to build more on music tourism and to, make it a driving force to get people coming here. I believe everyone who comes because of entertainment as well does other activities.
Absolutely.
And there's so much to do in this country and to explore. So it should be a concept looked at, and there are enough spaces where you can host entertainment. There are already enough events going on which easily are on international standards. I think about Spring Fiesta, Delicious Festival, and that's only 2 out of maybe hundreds we have. Newer concepts like Kunye or Bread for Soul, which are interesting too. So I think for every lover of electronic music, South Africa should be a prime destination to come to. What maybe still lacks is getting prejudice out of the heads of people, that they are not, visiting a country which necessarily is dangerous or problematic in some way, because wherever those events happen, it's very safe to go there and to visit. And if I can help to get rid of those prejudices by being a white person going here to all events, and not only those, but as well to townships, then a part of my job is done.
You spoke about already the circuit, the festivals, whether it's indoors or outdoors. You were telling me that when you got here, like, I used to play for 5,000 people over the weekend. Now I'm booked, I go on a Saturday, 15,000 people, at the stadium. Couldn't believe that. But how important is the entire institutions? So, we have the circuit. We have. I mean, we're talking earlier on about 5 events in one day in a very close proximity to each other. So you'll never run out of those Bread for Souls, Kunyes, and all these other new concepts are born every day. What is it that we need to strengthen? I mean, I know you do some work with other institutions, other bodies, the German embassy, notably one of the body that's and some of its institutions. So here, and I guess it's in the quest of now really entrenching this music city, concept and phenomenon. What role can universities play? What role can funding bodies, your lotteries of this world, what role can Home Affairs, that deals with homeland security? We were talking about the possibility of a creator's passport where creatives could get some form of incentives. And I guess out of your experience, with the likes of your Amsterdam, with the likes of your Belgiums, and many your Rios of this world that have been able to use the creative economy, as a catalyst for their socio-economic development. In your view, what becomes the role of other supporting institutions? So if all of a sudden there's talent that is coming out of music schools, there is some appreciation of township backyard studios, and how do we get equipment, to those? So in your view, what becomes the role of these holistic institutions, including government and the corporate sector, in harnessing this music city or creative city phenomenon?
I think it's like with everything in life, I would almost say every part of the puzzle has to understand that there's big potential in it, and then everybody has to play its role and make it possible. One sector can't exist or make it happen on its own, because if there are hurdles you can't overcome without another institution playing ball, you will be stuck. So I think it's about getting the right mindset in every sector, that it cross-pollinates each other if you work together, and that you can achieve much more if you work together. And I'm not a political person, so I don't want to go to all those institutions and explain. That's the job of other people, maybe like you. But I believe once the mindset is right and everybody plays ball, it's kind of easy to make it happen. But it's a mindset thing.
Surely record labels in the current form equally have a role to play. We just need to get your views on the evolution of record labels, especially with the influence of digital, with the influence of technology, with the influence now of AI. Are they still relevant? Do they need to be aligned to the realities? Or do they serve as a gatekeeping for natural talent that should be allowed to explore on their own?
Well, I believe the importance of music labels declined a bit. The individual person, the artist, became more important because it became so easy to distribute music these days. Back in the days, you needed a label to distribute physical copies across continents. So you had to ship records, you had to make your music known in a very different way compared to today. It became much easier thanks to the internet, and it is a good thing because you don't need that much money anymore to promote music. It's more about good ideas and quality products. If you have a good song, it's easier to, get it out to the world, make it go viral, which of course is great for the still often underprivileged youth, which is into music in this country, because it really enables them to, use music as an escape from maybe ideally poverty and make a career out of it. And it became much easier, but at the same time labels became less important. It's more about individuals making it happen now.
Obviously, after doing a lot of releases, collaborations, like you said, with your Shana's, Black Coffees, and many others, then came, that moment when you had to sit down, having worked in, working in Germany studios, and now you are here, and I guess for every artist, and with you, with multiple, award-winning, albums and all this, and the entire Gogo music stable being, out there, you have to produce your first album now, being in South Africa. What was the inspiration behind that? How did you find the logistics and the setup? And am I correct that the naming convention in my city was equally influenced by what you now call home?
Yes, it was. So, In My City was released 2014. I had another album release in 2012, which was Never Leaves You. And I started the production of the album still being in Germany, and I finished the production being here. And already Never Leaves You was I Never Wanna Leave Here.
Yeah.
And the next album was In My City,
Yeah.
which as well was had the Joburg skyline on the cover.
Absolutely.
It, of course, as well was influenced by one song, the title of the album, because one song was In the City, which was with Yuma Sekela, and I'm very proud that I could work with him.
Yeah.
It was a dream come true. And I don't know if it really changed my approach to music being here, because I try to really do what I feel inside, but obviously no one can free himself from influences around him. Everybody is influenced by his daily life, by his daily surrounding, by what he sees, what he hears, what he smells. So definitely I've been influenced. However, I try to keep my sound, the Ralf Gum sound, at the same time. So I think, yes, it's a giving and taking, but it definitely changed my approach to music too. As well, working with people here, which might have different routines from people who work overseas, simply because of how
they've been socialized.
Yes, exactly.
And those nuances,
It influences the work, and as well me as a person, obviously.
You do a lot of work, like we said earlier on, with the German embassy. Any specific reflection on that, and how has been, in your view, the advancement of, cultural diplomacy, in trying to bridge this polarized and divided world order we find ourselves in? Like we were saying, music, whether we are sad, we sing. Whether we are happy, we sing. So it becomes the staple, this injection, this tonic that continues to define our everyday lives, irrespective of the moods. So some of the work you do with the embassy, and does it also involve young people in the country?
Absolutely. So the German embassy realized there's a German guy who is successful
somewhere in our space,
in our space, and they as well understood the potential music offers in this country, because, like you say, music is really part of daily life here. So we had a meeting and were brainstorming about how can we leverage me being here and at the same time doing something good and sensible. And we came up with the idea of music workshops, which we held for several years now. We started 2019 with one workshop in Soweto, and then COVID came. We had to pause it for, I think, 2 years and continued or 3 years and continued in 2023 or 2022. I'm not sure anymore. Since then, did dance music workshops in various provinces in the country, as well as Eswatini and Lesotho. And for the German embassy, it became a project they really liked, because they understood that for a relatively low amount, they are able to do something which really has impact
and scale. And you can grow.
Yes, and I still meet people who attended a workshop maybe some years ago, and they really said it was life-changing for them, getting the information they needed. The format we do is that we have industry specialists covering all different aspects of the music industry. We usually did 2-day workshops where we covered everything related to the music industry. And again, for me, it is amazing to be able to do such things, because for me, it enables me to give back to the country. The country gave me so much, so I'm always happy when I'm able to give back, and I'm glad the German embassy bought into it. This year, unfortunately, we are pausing because of low budgets everywhere. But I hope we continue, and if not, I just might find another way to continue it, because I think youth development is extremely important. Like I said, it's good for the scene. If we have more people making a career in the scene, it helps everyone else who's attached to it.
I guess there lies an opportunity for the likes of a powerful German Bavaria Motorworks company, to look at this. Ralf, I'm told the largest concentration of BMWs, outside Bavaria, it's in Pretoria in Lodium.
Oh, that's crazy.
And BMW, plant depot, is in Roslin.
Yes.
So now with the new modern cars and I had an opportunity of being in a panel with Black Coffee at the Black Coffee Foundation late last year, and we were talking about how current creative sound music producers can actually leverage the growing digital landscape and not just produce traditional full circuit sounds, 3-4 minutes of 6-7 minutes of a song type of stuff. So if you look at things like jingles, how Pharrell made billions out of the McDonald's jingle and the like. So there, I think, in my crazy sense, there lies an opportunity to get BMW to follow through on what their embassy had done here. So you can imagine when you start the car and that sound that comes out of the car that is assembled,
Yes.
in Berlin, is the sound of Bacardi, the Pitori sound.
Mm-hmm.
Your take on that?
Yeah. I mean, it's an interesting idea. Um, I guess everything that brings us closer together, and those little things help a lot, are a good initiative in general. So maybe you should suggest it to BMW and
Me,
at the same time ask them if they don't want to do some music workshops.
absolutely. So me and you, we have a date. We will have to go to the BMW. Ralph, as we now wrap up our conversation, so here in Gauteng Live, we are running at Gauteng Tourism a campaign where we are encouraging the first timers in Gauteng. So the people who might be like you back in the years coming in for the first time, but equally, we also want you to overlay that with a message to young Germans that we are targeting that can come and explore our cultural and creative spaces. Maybe let's start with that message to them.
I just would encourage everyone to visit this country because there's so much to explore. And as I mentioned in the beginning, the people are very open-hearted and very friendly. And I believe when you come here, just connect with locals. They will tell you the ins and outs. They will tell you what you can do. And it's very easy to connect with them because of the nature of people here.
So what becomes Ralf Gum's guide to Gauteng? So if you were to take them through a musical journey or a musical experience, but beyond just music, because, there's a whole lot of things that influence music. Fashion has to do influence with music. Spaces,
Yes.
Influences even the type of music you produce. And in summary, what will that look like?
I mean, I would say it depends who you are with. If you just come here and want to have some musical experiences, there are very safe areas like Sandton, which now became almost like entertainment hubs, and you can have almost every kind of music within Sandton now. But if possible, you should as well go to Kasi and experience music there, because still the musical culture lives in townships in South Africa very much. If you're a first-timer in Gauteng, again, you might have to connect with locals to go there and to tell you where to go and maybe as well where to not go. But it's easy to connect with people. So if possible, I would send everyone to townships. And, we have beautiful shisanyamas and clubs and venues and lounges in the townships. If possible, everyone should experience them too, and not only the clubs in town.
Ralph's idea and vision of a South African dance, house music, trajectory, say in the next decade and a half? We are dominating the charts. We are almost on every catalog.
Yes.
Producers out of this country, especially house music producers, dance music producers, are literally in charge.
Yes.
Quality global sounds. How do we sustain this?
It's always hard to predict the future. I just think we need to keep at it, We need to keep on innovating, which happened over the last years. We need to further connect with international artists and communities and stakeholders. And if all of that is done, I think nothing can go wrong. There's so much talent, and almost every day you hear about a new producer doing something new which is dope. So I think it will happen naturally, unless it is stopped in an unnatural way, you know. Therefore, just keep at it and keep on doing what people do here. And what helps a lot is what I think lacks in a lot of other countries. Almost everybody is working together. There's not any beef going on between house producers in this country. We all are rather working towards our
common vision,
our shared vision to make it happen. And if we keep on doing this, I think no one can stop South African music.
So will you say that has been, the continuing guide and tonic for this consistency and sustenance, and something that, other genres could literally copy, that working together at the height of what used to be called Barba Gum music, international house music was still blasting. We're still dancing to your Frankie Knuckles and them. At the height of quiet jazz, house music didn't drop. It continued to literally influence even the sound of Kwaito, at the height of gqom music,
and it continued with
Amapiano, and you have probably, I've lost count on the sub-genres of Amapiano, but all I hear there is house music.
Yes, I think the real strength of this country always has been, and it goes back to the Ubuntu you mentioned earlier, that people were working together. My entry was, like I said, it was Christos booking me to the country for the first time, but the real entry was, I think, being at the Southern African Music Conference, and already at that time it was the 5 biggest legends of the country working together, making it happen. And it kind of never stopped. And that's the real strength we have. And I doubt it will go away. It's just in the blood of people here.
So if you could leave just one message to young South African and German creatives around the importance of building bridges through music.
I think it's the most important thing, because as an artist, if there are no bridges for your music to travel anywhere, you will be alone with your music. So building bridges, and that means building a community and keeping contacts and creating more contacts and exchange is essential for you to grow. And it as well is what initiates new things and innovation. And therefore, always, don't stay in your small world. Look at the bigger picture. It's a big world, and try to make or build those bridges.
So what is coming out of Gogo Music and Ralf? What can we look out for? We were looking for the classical Ralf tunes to get us dancing.
Yes. For now, I decided to just release singles. I like that with a single I have a kind of instant gratification.
Yes.
I don't have to work for 2 years or
Yes.
something until an album is completed.
Yeah.
But I can release maybe every second or third month a new single. So that's what I do at the moment. I just finished a new song with a relatively unknown girl from Tembisa, which drops end of March. And I just keep on doing my thing, and at the same time try to find time to collaborate with people. I started a collaboration with a Joburg-based but Eswatini-born artist called Sux. We will drop a single within the next months. And I still as well help other people with parts of the production. So I keep myself busy, but it will stay the classical Gum sound. And yeah, I just keep on doing what I love, and I feel blessed that I'm able to do that.
Music continues to be the driving force behind us, energized and moving forward. We nourish our souls, we nourish our hearts with music. And with the likes of Ralf Gum and their cohort, they have been able to use their experiences, shared values, to ensure that this genre, this economy continues to move forward. How music interfaces with the arts, with the creative economy, with fashion, and all the other subsectors that forms this ecosystem that continues to move beyond the parliaments, move beyond the executive, move beyond the traditional media, but becomes a force that even politicians use it to drum up support. That's the power of music, and with the quality and the infrastructure that we have here, surely out of Ralph's guide and words of encouragement, we can build Johannesburg and Gauteng into a very competitive, creative music city, pioneering above its peers in the continent and be on par with the world's cities of creativity, arts, and music. Ralf, thank you very much for accepting our invitation. It has been an absolute pleasure to have you in our show. And as we always do, looking forward to collaborating more with you. We still need more German tourists to come in. We appreciate that they continue to be among the top 3 of our key source markets. And with your help, like you always do, we have a date to go to our BMW and our German colleagues, and also bring in new youngsters, young talent, like we always do. I'm looking forward to you producing another LSG out of this country. So once again, thank you very much for accepting our invitation.
Thank you very much for having me. I really appreciate it, Barba. And yeah, we go back quite some time now, and we did some work together, and I'm looking forward to do more.
That has been another fascinating episode of Gauteng Lifve. Don't forget to subscribe onto our channel. Please press that subscribe channel and button. Tell your friends, tell your family, tell your colleagues that this is the platform where we engage, share, and propagate everything about the visitor economy in the Golden Province of Gauteng. Follow us at I Love Gauteng on Facebook, at Visit Gauteng on TikTok, and also on Instagram. We're at Gauteng Tourism Authority. On X, don't forget to download the Visit Gauteng mobile app. It's available on iOS platform. It is also available on Google Play. This is the app where you could be a music producer, you could be running venues. Allow us to list your venues, your products on our app for absolutely free, and we will share your work, your offerings with the rest of the world on this Visit Gauteng mobile app that we are encouraging you to do. Over and above that, continue to subscribe, share, and tell everybody about the platform. Until the next episode, let's continue to polish those diamonds, those golds that makes up our creative economy that makes up our Gauteng and our Golden Province. Until the next episode, second round.